Body parts. They've been selling body parts. That's old. That's not new. That's why black people don't like to go to hospitals. They go to get their toes clipped, their fingernails clipped, and they wake up and their foot's gone.
They've been utilizing the organs of black people for years, the organs and the body parts and the members of African American people, and that goes back to George Washington. There's a long time myth that George Washington had wooden teeth. We've heard that myth growing up in school. The reality is George Washington did not have wooden teeth, because common sense will tell you you can't put wood in your mouth, it gets wet, and wet wood is useless. What George Washington did, he had the teeth of his African slaves yanked out of their mouths, and he made dentures out of these teeth, and they're on display. His dentures are on display at museums right now. And that just goes to show the history of African people having our bodies mutilated and our members disfigured and mutilated for the betterment and benefit of the dominant society.
Is this claim that Washington had teeth yanked out of the mouths of his slaves true? There's no direct evidence this was the case. It is at best a partial truth used to elicit an emotional response, making it easier to believe the later claims in this clip. The specific claim originates with controversial historian Henry Weinsick in his book, An Imperfect God, George Washington, His Slaves, and the Creation of America. In that book, Weinsick claims Washington's false teeth were, quote, yanked from the heads of his slaves and fitted into dentures, unquote. Weinsick also says, quote, it has long been known to the specialists that some of Washington's teeth came from the mouths of his slaves, unquote. But Weinsick does not name any of these specific specialists, nor does he give any footnoted sources for this claim. And I have not been able to find any of these specialists making this claim. So while pro-black move websites such as reunionblackfamily.com and blacktimetravel.com repeat this claim verbatim, it cannot be said with any certainty that Washington had teeth yanked out of the mouths of his slaves. Weinsick's book also says that, quote, Washington paid his slaves for their teeth, unquote. And it also says, quote, the custom of wealthy people buying teeth from poor people was common in Europe, unquote. And an article from PBS entitled The Private Lives of George Washington's Slaves confirms that selling teeth was common in those days and in history, saying, quote, slaves of the 18th century sometimes turned to the perfectly acceptable means of making money by selling their teeth to dentists. Since at the least the end of the Middle Ages, poor people had often sold their teeth for use in both dentures and in-tooth transplant operations for those wealthy enough to afford the procedure, unquote. So the claim from Weinsick that teeth selling and buying were common is true. That same article then goes on to say, quote, transplantable teeth were hard to come by, and in 1783, Lamore, Washington's dentist, even went so far as to advertise in the New York papers for persons disposed to sell their front teeth or any of them, netting the donor 2 guineas, equaling 42 shillings per tooth. He offered anyone but slaves a similar amount for their front teeth, unquote. So we know that Washington's dentist bought teeth from white people. However, it is not clear whether Lamore bought teeth from slaves or not. So did Washington pay his slaves for their teeth? We do not know this for sure. Washington or his dentist could have bought the teeth used for his dentures from anyone. What we do know is that MountVernon.org says, quote, deep within one of Washington's accounting books is an entry which details Washington's purchase from 9 teeth from Negroes for 122 shillings. It is not clear if Washington intended to use these teeth as implants or within a new set of dentures, or if he employed the teeth at all, unquote. The article also says, quote, aware of his failing dental health, George Washington retained several of his pulled teeth and within a locked desk drawer at Mount Vernon. In a Christmas Day 19 1782 letter, Washington wrote to Lund Washington, his distant cousin and temporary manager of Mount Vernon, requesting that the teeth be wrapped up and sent to him in Newburgh, New York. Washington hoped that these original teeth could be used with new dentures that were being fitted for his use, unquote. So we know that Washington bought 9 Negro teeth, and he also had several of his own teeth to be made into dentures. But we do not know if the Negro teeth were from his slaves or not. Although we do know for sure that the full set of Washington's dentures preserved at Mount Vernon are made of horse, cow, and human teeth.
So looking at this set of dentures, you can see they're not made of wood as many people think. They have a combination of materials. They have a lead base for the top and bottom that would have fit against the upper and lower jaw. The teeth themselves are made of a combination of horses or asses' teeth on the top, and on the bottom a combination of cow's teeth and actual human teeth. Now,
we do not know if Washington's dentist used Washington's teeth that he saved or if he used the 9 Negro teeth that Washington bought. For all we know, the dentist or Washington may have bought the teeth used for Washington's dentures from poor whites who were looking to sell their teeth for money. The biggest thing we can know for sure about this claim is that you do not have to pull teeth from living people to get human teeth for dentures or implants. Even though we know Washington saved several of his own teeth and that he bought 9 Negro teeth, the most practical way to acquire human teeth is from dead people. It makes no sense that a self-interested slaveholder would take teeth from the mouths of his own living slaves if he wanted them to remain healthy, strong, and able to do hard labor. So in the end, Washington's dentures could have been made from white people or any dead person's teeth. And the dentures could have been made from slaves' teeth, from slaves who were not Washington's slaves. So it cannot be said for sure that Washington, quote, had the teeth of his African slaves yanked out of their mouths and he made dentures out of those teeth, unquote, as Tariq Nasheed claims with certainty. If you was a slaveholder who needed dentures in those days, would you buy the teeth from your slaves or have your slaves' teeth forcefully removed, thus making them less healthy? Or would you acquire the teeth needed some other way?